Good afternoon, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I am your ever-loving host, Shorty, and we've got a review for you today, which was a little bit up in there if we're going to manage one, basically because we didn't get our delivery yesterday. This is a bigger problem affecting every comic book store in the country, but you know what? Let's just carry on anyway and not worry about it. We're reviewing this. American Ronin. The reason I'm reviewing this one rather than anything else is I didn't order too many copies. AWA are putting out some absolutely classic, banging great comic books at the moment, but they're still kind of below the radar of a lot of my customers. And as such, I can't just order loads because I think it's cool. That's a very bad business choice to make. So I ordered just a small handful in, and they've all been claimed already because that cover is beautiful. Again, for the people who kind of glance away for a second, look at that. So I thought, yeah, you know what? Everything's been claimed already. Let's give a review so I at least get to read it. And if it is as as exciting and great as I hoped it would be, I can tell everyone about it, including people who don't even shop with me, because one of the nice things about being on YouTube is occasionally people randomly search for stuff and they find these videos. Yay! So should you buy American Ronin? Well, that kind of depends on what you're into. If you're into John Wick, yes. And I don't mean that as like, oh, but you're a big Keanu Reeves fan, because that's cool. Keanu Reeves is great. Everyone loves Keanu Reeves. Nicest guy in the world. But the one thing I remember taking away from John Wick, the first movie, when it came out, was that even though it wasn't like a huge part of what they were doing, they were clearly setting the world up to be ever so slightly different to ours. When the guy turns up, the cop turns up at John's house, and it's all just kind of brushed off, even though you can clearly see dead bodies in there, and they have the cleaning crew and their own currency. Yeah, it's not just like, our world, but slightly different. It's not our world. There is a completely different amount of stuff underpinning it. That's the sense I got from American Ronin, straight off. Actually, no, not straight off. I got a cyberpunk feel to it, and a sense that Ako is an absolutely outstanding artist. That is a Hong Kong cityscape from above. The level of detail on there and the sense of perspective and the panels running down the middle of it just is a brilliant bit of work. Just exactly what you like out of comic book artwork. It does everything. It tells you everything you need to do and does it in a fantastic way, which you wouldn't get in most of the media. But the cyberpunk feel, I didn't know why I was getting it. Other than the artwork and a little bit of the writing, it feels a little bit noirish. But then you get a sense of corporations being like way more powerful, like running nations. It's like, yeah, that's very cyberpunk. And later on, you find that the people involved in this, the Ronin, specifically the American Ronin, has a special little ability that allows him to be incredibly empathetic and even take people's DNA into a serum and inject it into himself, so he fully gets a sense of who that person is, and as such knows their inner desires and wants and cravings, and can use that against them. That does sound like a very cyberpunk kind of thing, even though there's no technical cyberware making that possible. That kind of just otherworldly ability that doesn't really get explained, that fits very much in what I've got in my mind here. And the fact that it exists in a world which seems very much like our own. Now, don't get me wrong, we're dealing with corporations, but they don't actually have any real world, our real world corporations. They make a bunch of their own, including Lincoln's Eye, which has a logo which reminds me a little bit of Amazon, but only a little bit. And they basically are running the world in their own little way, traveling across borders, doing whatever they like. And this Ronin, for whatever reason, and this still isn't fully explained, has his sights set on one of them to do a bit of a murder. Now, everything else after that, I'm not going to tell you about, because why bother? You should read it. It's great. But how the story progresses is fantastic. You get a deep sense of there is a reason why he's doing it without ever actually telling you what that reason is. There's a little bit at the end where you get the impression there is definitely more to it than even I expected, but delivered in a way which doesn't really answer any questions. It leaves you wanting more. It leaves you basically wanting to grab the next issue and the next two or three after that and hope like hell this all comes together in a way that is satisfying. And I gotta say, I really expect it to be. Because one thing I'll say about the Matrix first movie, when it started that world building thing, and it's like, yeah, this isn't our place, this isn't the universe we exist in, it just made me want to find out more about it. Because it did it kind of effortlessly. My big issue, I think, with the third one was they did a little bit too much of it, with the high table and a lot of the I don't say mythology, but the world around that kind of got in the way of the action a little bit in a way that it didn't really for the first two for me. This one, I think, American Ronin, I think he's going to manage it quite nicely of just being a nice background vein running through it, while also telling an absolutely brilliant dark cyberpunk noir thriller involving an awful, I expect, lot of murders. So yeah, we're all out at the moment. If you're watching this and you're one of my customers and you think that sounds great, can I have a copy? Nope. I might be able to order some, but you have to wait a week for that. But if you're shopping elsewhere, go and find it. It's absolutely worth your time checking it out. And AWA are, again, just doing great things. That's it for me. I will be back tomorrow. There are plenty of things to review. Bye. Down to